All right, we are not live-ish. The two of us are live. We're both alive. Welcome
And
to
well,
and well, welcome to Microsoft Unboxed POD, episode 30. I am your host today, Kareem Anderson. I'm joined by.
David Allen, we are at the big 3-0, my friend. Is 30 the new 20 or is 30 the new 40?
Whew, I hope it's the new 20. I mean, these trends going in reverse is just going to make us even older than that. Yeah, we hit the big 3-0. We want to thank you guys for joining us for 30 episodes of this
Yes.
nascent podcast. We are hoping to get better, get more polished, and get you guys more information as we grow this thing. We had another slow-ish week in Microsoft land. No stunning news, no lawsuits, no, well, we had a formal complaint. We don't have it listed in the docket, but maybe we'll stumble across it. For the things that are listed for what you're going to hear today in our podcast, let me do a quick rundown of our headlines just so I can get you guys in and out and you can kind of figure out where you need to jump into the pod if you're interested in one specific headline or another. First thing we're talking about is DaVinci Resolve 19 leaving beta, which is big news for anybody who bought a Windows on ARM PC in the last 2 months, or if you bought any of those Surface Pro X's with the SQ chipset or whatnot. We'll be talking about Windows Recall no longer being mandatory. That is also big news. But if you're not a software person, probably went right over your head. We're going to be talking about iPhone 16 almost here and some of our speculations and how this is going to suck all the air out of September's hardware announcements for anybody else. We're also going to be talking about a new game that both David and I are very interested in. If
Yes.
you are a sim person and not the kind of person who likes to put their sims in an airplane and fly them around for the 24 hours a day in Microsoft Simulator, Flight Simulator, we have Enjoy. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I could be wrong. But we'll be talking about that game. We'll be talking about Lenovo building out its Legion Go ecosystem, which might be a good sign if you were a fan of the original one. Maybe not a good sign if you're a fan of the original one, because that means that they are probably going to do a version 2 that is roughly the same. We'll talk about all the hardware and all that stuff coming up. Microsoft is paying its AI developers or engineers or employees in that division a bit more than they paid their cloud people. And the cloud people get paid pretty decently. And the
They
cloud
do.
people generate actual revenue and profits. AI, we don't know yet, but those people are getting paid more. We'll kind of speculate on why that might be, and then we'll end it in the podcast with a big bailout, not for the pod, no one's paying us, but for
Not yet.
no, but for OpenAI, they might be getting bailed out by Microsoft, Apple, and some of the other investors in that group with another round of funding. With that being said, I've talked too much. You jump in, my friend. Start us off.
But let's talk about Windows on ARM. I will throw this out there that over the last 2 weeks, I have transitioned my podcast machine to one of our Lenovo Windows
Oh
on ARM
boy.
review units. And this has been a wonderful experience for me so far. So I'll have to say that Windows on ARM is improving. And while we're in the audio video space, here's something that a lot of people Kareem, my buddy, and I myself have been waiting for. DaVinci Resolve 19 is finally out of beta and ready for Windows on ARM. So here's kind of the lowdown on that. It's for Snapdragon X Elite CPUs only. My understanding is it does not run on CPUs below that. If somebody knows that it does, please correct me. But DaVinci Resolve 19 on ARM is available fully in the flesh. It is not a watered down version, it is not crippled in any way. You can get the free version still, and the paid version is $295. It's a one time deal, there's no license fees like Adobe. So Snapdragon has done a heck of a job here. They have beat Adobe to the or Snapdragon. Listen at me. DaVinci has done a heck of a job here at beating Adobe to the punch of getting a native video editing app out. Remember, a couple weeks ago, we talked about here on the pod that Adobe had made their stuff ARM compatible. It is still running in the translation layer, so it is not truly 100% ARM compatible. I will say I have had a chance to do some limited testing on DaVinci Resolve here on a Lenovo 7X and works very well for me. Pretty slick product. So this is another step of Lenovo of Snapdragon moving forward. I'm happy to see it. Developers, keep it coming. We're on to something here. I think I want things to get better. I want things to improve. I don't want to run Intel off the table. They still have their place, they still have their purpose. But I'm going to have to admit, I don't pick up an Intel laptop as a requirement nearly as much as I used to.
Yeah, this is huge news again
Yes.
for maybe not for the average person because the average person isn't doing a ton of content creation, but for anybody who wafts around on YouTube, that has been one of the major criticisms Windows on ARM is of the three. It's been no content creation tools in general have been a problem
Hmm.
for Windows. Especially when the Mac has the same amount of content creation tools plus Final Cut in their own stable. So they've always had a one up when it comes to it. And usually, Windows users have always had to kind of rely on Adobe and whatever their time frame is. DaVinci Resolve has kind of crept out of nowhere. I wouldn't say nowhere, but they've been around for a while. But they've always been second tier. Um, but when I say that this is huge news, it's the fact that this is just another thing that they can tick off the box for Windows and ARM. We've got battery life out of the way. Now, when these reviewers get another Windows and ARM device, they can say, hey, I can do the same level of content creation I was doing with Final Cut or Adobe on an Intel device via DaVinci Resolve. It's unfortunate that the devices had to be released before they could have this as a talking point because,
Hmm.
Microsoft, I guess, maybe told laptop developers like, hey, we don't even have to worry about the content creation tool because we'll have all this AI stuff that'll keep everyone busy until you guys have developed uh, DaVinci Resolve and Adobe Premiere. Fortunately, they pulled the big AI tool, which just left battery life improvements. Uh, so now that this is coming out, if we get a second round of devices, this will probably be one of the bigger talking points. Okay, you guys can run natively 4K editing all through DaVinci Resolve here, and I believe Adobe Premiere should have their native app out in the fall of this, in like the next couple months as well. So you'll have two powerhouse creative tools to be able to run this. So if you again are a content creator who likes to travel on the go and don't want to have to be plugged into the wall anymore, again, this couldn't have been better news.
I want to.
Go ahead.
Can I throw one more thing out there? I want to give another very popular creator a shout out. If you guys are having a hard time coming to grips with whether you want a Snapdragon laptop or not, Linus Tech Tips did something really cool this week, and I think I shared that with you in one of our conversations. He had done something to where he tells a lot of his editors, "Hey, this is your device for X amount of time." Then they come back and have a sit down and talk about their experiences and what they thought. Now, I think he had three or four people there on his staff, but really what caught my attention, if for those that are really into tech and keep track of, your favorite content creators, Linus is usually very hard on new technology sometimes, and I expected him to come out very aggressive and tell us all the things that these Snapdragon laptops couldn't do yet because of software. But really, what perked my attention was all of his editors they were all very positive. He had even mentioned that he had to do a Teams meeting and there was 16% left on his battery, and it was not a big deal because he was still able to do the Teams meeting plus what he needed to do for the next few hours before he had to even think about, picking up a outlet somewhere. And then there was another one of his employees that said, I've only charged my Snapdragon device 7 times in a month. So keep watching for these releases like DaVinci Resolve here. If you're on the fence about a Snapdragon laptop, keep your eyes open. I think, you'll be glad you did. And maybe we'll see some better competition from Intel and AMD in the future. And we can talk about this in another way later.
Yeah, we're going to move on to another story, which is Windows recall no longer being mandatory. We were just talking about it in our previous story about the big AI feature that was supposed to come with a lot of these devices. That feature was called Windows Recall. For those of you who need a quick recap, it's just a uh, AI enhanced search tool for Windows, which would use screenshot snapshots from a device every 3 seconds of any usage on the computer. So if you're sitting here doing work like we are, hosting a podcast, maybe if you wandered off to do some shopping on a browser, or if you were doing just mundane data processing, your screen would Windows would capture a screenshot of that and then use AI or machine learning to basically index those into filters, categories, and actionable items that you can then call back later on with the simple uh, normal language call search. So if you were saying like, hey, 3 days ago I was doing a P&L report for my budgeting person at work or whatever, and they needed the original version of it, and you don't necessarily remember what you called it in your file explorer, but it's somewhere in there, or maybe you saved it. We all do a bunch of quick downloads that then gets shuffled off into Windows, hell. We don't know where it goes. Just kind of gets saved into a random file unless you specifically organize it right at the start of your download. You could be able to pull that up with just typing in natural language search. So like, where is the original P&L that I had? And then, hey, it'll pop up. Anyway, all that being said, Microsoft yanked it because it was a big security concern. There were cybersecurity people who found plain text files that had all this data that could easily be confiscated or manipulated by nefarious hackers or whatnot. There were a bunch of limiting personalization, customization features to prevent privacy or data collection. If somebody wanted to do something bad with it. Anyway, Microsoft ended up pulling it because it was not well thought out at the time. Well, they are now getting ready to test it again and bring it back in October for insiders to start kind of getting that momentum back and bringing that feature back to the forefront for everyone else. One of the things they announced, aside from the fact that they are going to be releasing it to insiders in October, is that they are now not making it mandatory. Uh, One of the things they had kind of called it before was that you could opt into it, but it would still be something on your device. Apparently now, you will be able to uninstall it altogether. So if you want nothing to do with it, it's one thing to be like, hey, you know what, I'm indifferent to it. I'm just not going to use it, but it's on your computer. And maybe, again, a hacker somehow figures out a way to trigger it. You're saying, all right, well, I never used it, but someone got in my computer through, remote virtualization or something like that. And now they've triggered it. And now they're just capturing a bunch of stuff I have no idea about because the tool is enabled on the device. You can now go in and uninstall it and be like, you know what, I don't want any of it. I don't want to even have the pretenses of it could actually accidentally be turned on. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, 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 yes. I think most features in Windows should have this option, to be honest. And I know we kind of go back to the whole Internet Explorer Edge thing from a few years ago where people were debating should Edge or, I think Internet Explorer at the time even be a part of Windows. Anything that involves customer privacy, user privacy, I think should be something that can be removed and the user should have the choice. I know I want to use recall for the things that you mentioned, like for working on a site, that, working on a post. Where did I download that image? Where's that, image of that laptop or whatever we were reviewing, or where did we have this discussion? And to be able to find those things. But it's one thing to say that Microsoft has given the option to remove these things. But my question that I still have that we have not heard a definite answer to yet: what has been done about these security issues? What can they tell users to say, yes, if you choose to use this experience, it's secure. It's
Well,
nice
in their
to be able
defense,
to remove
they
it.
did mention that it is end-to-end encrypted. So that's one thing. The other thing I think they mentioned was that it is linked to bioauthentication from a device. So you're going to need Windows Hello or a thumbprint or something in order to authorize usage of this thing specifically. Um, and then they also offered a bunch of filters essentially for people to customize. So if you're saying, you know what, I just want to do it just for work purposes only, productivity and work applications, you can say, hey, don't record whenever the browser comes open, whenever Edge opens up or Chrome or whatever third party browser you're using opens up, stop recording. You can do that. And I think you'll be able to do it for specific apps as well. So if it's something like Spotify, Netflix, whatever, you can say, hey, whenever these things pop up or show up on the screen, you shut down recall. That is another thing I guess they're doing. Or maybe email, maybe specifically email, because we know that is a phishing nightmare for people. Whenever Outlook's open, Gmail's on the screen, whatever, you shut down because there's a lot of data or content that I don't want you capturing screenshots of. Now, obviously, there's always more you can do.
And I think this is a good opportunity. Everybody's talked about Apple was first. They called it the neural engine, and we've got these, AI chips in these PCs now, like the one I'm sitting here using. Now is the good opportunity to one, make use of that AI chip. Show us that that is secure. Show us that you can do it on device. And I'm sure the network engineers and the hackers and the programmers will be out there. And I'm just going to throw this out there. When it comes out for testing, I want somebody to let me know when you use recall, do a packet capture on your internet connection. I just want to know, is anything leaving the device? If so, what?
Good question, my friend. Good question. Well, we'll leave that open ended for right now. We will revisit that in October. So stay tuned for that, ladies and gentlemen, because by all means, I'm sure we'll be doing our own testing on that kind of thing. So,
Yes.
and maybe we'll record it. We'll have a quick sit down with you guys and let you know. Moving on to our next topic, you brought up iPhone 16. Yeah, the Apple fan in this podcast wants to talk about Apple stuff.
Whoa, whoa,
Surprise,
whoa,
surprise,
whoa,
ladies and
whoa.
gentlemen. Surprise, surprise.
My man has called me an Apple fan. Boy, whoo, he kind of reached there, folks. But we do have to give Apple a little bit of a shout out here. For you Apple folks out there, it's that time of year, late summer, early fall. So it's time to get those pre-orders in. Time to stand in line at the cell phone store like we used to do. Apple,
Does anybody do that anymore?
iPhone.
I feel like I have not seen that, and it has not been highlighted by Apple that the long lines for the iPhones are back.
Well, I did it a few years ago because I did have
Okay,
an iPhone.
okay,
I did have an iPhone a few years ago, somewhere about the 12 or 13.
okay.
And I'll have to admit, I did it here at a bigger store in Raleigh, North Carolina that had the capacity. It was a corporate owned store. It was not a Best Buy or something like that. It was actually a pretty cool experience because not just standing in line. And I know I'm kind of going off here, but you kind of had people that were like you. That you had the enthusiasts there. So to hear the excitement, to see the excitement of fellow iPhone users was pretty cool, and it would be neat to see that come back when we have this release or event here on September the, let's
Ninth.
see, 9th. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So September 9th, 10 a.m. Pacific. Apple will throw that up on YouTube normally. It is often on apple.com with their own broadcast. Now, I will throw this out there. Remember, they are a little picky sometimes about what browser you can use to watch their events. I know there for a while you couldn't use Google Chrome on Apple.com and watch that event for some crazy reason. So, Apple fans, Apple Intelligence may not be here. They say that's coming after the iPhone 16 release. We're going to see the new iOS updates. RCS messaging seems to be coming out of the gate. So, for you folks that have got the Android phones that are looking to better participate, better photos, videos with those with the blue bubbles, but you're going to get that opportunity. I know the rest of I'm kind of the black sheep of the family when it comes to phones. The rest of my family has iPhones. I've got an Android phone, and they're always telling me, "Hey, we can't send you this, we can't send you that." So I'm ready to see that fixed. I will be testing that personally, and you will probably see a YouTube video and a TikTok from me on that because I really want to see that work. I feel like that's the next step. So, does Apple throw out any other devices? Rumor is Apple Watch could be, it'd be the Apple Watch 10. There could be some new AirPods out there. So, Apple fans, get ready for your event. We will be watching, and I'm sure we will at least put up a write up of some sort about what Apple wants to talk about.
Yeah, Apple fans also be prepared for probably anywhere from 10 to 20, maybe 30 minutes of them just kind of glorifying their Apple Plus TV service because that's what they love to do at these announcements. So if you're afraid of missing it at 10 o'clock, don't be. Usually the first 20 minutes are just fluff. Jump back in at around 10:20, 10:30 to actually see the iPhone and maybe all the
Mm-hmm.
nice cool hardware. Just preparing you guys for from someone who's watched a lot of these through Hate Watch. I just wanted to get you guys prepared. Moving on to our next topic, which is the game Inzoi. I am pronouncing it entirely wrong. I can feel it in my bones, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's Inzoi, and it is all for all intents and purposes, a hyper realistic Sims competitor. Looks like it's from the same makers, or the developers, PUBG, if you guys have ever played what was supposed to be a rival to Fortnite. I still play it. I play it on my phone. I enjoy it, but it was the battle arena ish type style game that was for a minute, mentioned in the same breath as Fortnite for people who didn't want the cartoonish game style play. Um, it seems like that same group is looking to do the same thing with The Sims. It is looking to compete for people who don't want the more cartoonish version of The Sims. You'll be able to do or play or create in this world of Inzoi these hyper realistic versions of characters. Like I said, simply put, it's a life sim, and its gameplay promises a familiar yet fresh experience. It's all about creating and nurturing your Zoys, which are, people or whoever you end up creating, ensuring their needs are met, just like The Sims, from the basics of hunger, hygiene, to their aspirations and happiness. But it's not just about the mundane. The game's world is rich with opportunities for work, hobbies, and social interactions. It's all underpinned by a detailed emotive mood system and the complex web of personal values and traits for your non-playable characters. So you'll also see the progression of people that I guess you come in contact with that end up developing to different broader relationships or more specific ones. So if you have a coworker at work, you'll also probably have to navigate some of their needs in specific as you work, at a coffee shop with them or something like that. Same thing with nurturing relationships. It very much as like The Sims. For those of you listening to us and not seeing the visuals, when I say hyper realistic, I'm talking, more of like The Witcher or Dragon Age. These more robust character creation tools. I believe Starfield is another one that use a very in-depth creative processing tool. Like you could probably spend, I'd say, maybe days building out a character with as much detail as this game is offering. But like I said, when it comes down to the basics, it is very much The Sims. With the one added twist is that you get a cat. I believe the cat's name is Psychit, Psychit, Psykhet. It's a cat that's not just a mascot of the game, but kind of a necessity for a lot of people in the game. And you're able to basically bounce or run ideas, suggestions, and gameplay through this cat. If you were looking to, maybe go out on a date, or if you were looking to have friends over, or if you're thinking about cooking something, you can run these ideas through this cat, which is again an in-game decision helper or tutorial, I suppose, at some point. So we're all about to be, potentially cat people if we start playing this game. The only unfortunate thing about the game is that you can't play it right now.
Darn
They
it.
had, yeah, right. They had I guess what you consider an open beta that just wrapped up, or a demo, I guess that just wrapped up August 26th. The game is supposed to come out later this year. It looks like I said, for most of the stuff that I've seen online, it was at least initially shown in Asian markets right off the bat. But you can go on YouTube, see a ton of people, playing it or having tested it out for more international markets. What are your thoughts on this being a sim competitor? Do the Sims even need competition?
Well, I think the Sims have got their market share. They have, and when I say Sims, there's Sim City, there's Sims, and then there's, various add-on packs and, different parts for EA's version of The Sims. I
Mhm.
think um, this is a nice alternative, kind of like
And just for you guys wondering, this is not like Half Life. So this is
yep.
again more Sims like, less Half Life. Unless you treat it like that, you create yourself in this game and you take it hyper serious. You could do that for those people who were looking to find their next boat to jump from Half Life to something. But this is again more in the vein of The Sims.
Thank you for jumping in on me there. I got choked up over my own words. Sorry about that, folks.
He
Um,
really wants to play this game, ladies and gentlemen.
I do. I do. I really want to try this because I enjoy sim like games, whether it's like this, whether it's a military based or racing, or, I'm not much of an arcade player. And I think this is different for a lot of people. I think a lot of people like to get online and whether you believe it or not, or think it's cool to do, a lot of people like to have that place where they can get online and kind of escape from the reality. There's what's the name of it? Second Life. There's those that get on
Yes, that's what I
Second
meant to say.
Life.
Second Life. When I was saying Half Life, I meant Second Life, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that.
You know, and kind of live their own online life. So to me, this is cool. There'll be a lot of people get involved with the detail of the character creation, and a lot of us don't like what we look like, unfortunately, or we have dreams or aspirations of looking like someone else. And that's where titles like this excel. I
Yeah.
think people get into that detail. It's kind of like one that's out now. If you guys are looking something to play, Delta Force. It was Delta Force Black Hawk Down. The name has changed in the last couple of weeks. They have just called it Delta Force. I was invited to the private beta. It's kind of like a military sim slash Battlefield competitor. Now, if you watch other YouTube creators, they say it crushes Battlefield because it does have the simulation side. This is kind of like that, just in a sim world. Delta Force is, very sim like as well. So I'm excited to try this. I will probably sit down and spend way too much time playing it. And to be honest, will this run on a Snapdragon laptop? This would be the type of game that somebody could sit down and play for hours, because people do. I have a friend that does that. When she gets started on these sim games, it's 4, 5, 6 hours. She's into it, and this is what she does, with her free time. So, hey, can we do this on these Snapdragon laptops? I'll be interested. I want to know.
That's a good question. From the anecdotal comments and that I've been reading from the videos and stuff, this does seem to be resource intensive. So you may need dedicated GPUs for this, which we right up Intel's alley because they're coming out their NPUs that also will support a dedicated GPU. So you'll still maybe have these Copilot Plus PCs that can do this sort of gaming. But again, for those of you listening, there's a lot of lighting and shading and stuff that's going to go into this game. So you're probably going to need a more powerful system. Two other notes. One, if you're looking to add this, even though you can't play it, you can add it to your wish list on Steam currently. You can also go visit the website to see if there's going to be other information available. Again, Inzoi, it's Inzoi. And then my last note was that I hope Microsoft gets behind this because I've said this and I've been saying it for years. I want Microsoft's platform to be the platform of Sims. Really curated,
Mhm.
really awesome sim experiences. They've done it with Microsoft Flight Simulator already. If they can
Yes.
start backing something like this, and kind of taking it under its wing. Not saying you need to buy them, just promote them. Let them know like, hey, on this system we prioritize this, and maybe we'll give extra DLCs that are maybe specific to the Xbox brand or something like that. But I think that's their lane. RPGs kind of went the way of Sony. First person shooters, because of the sheer volume and the way that the market kind of filtered out so far in the last like 10 years, have gone to Sony as well. And then they have the Spider-Man franchise. I mean, they've got action kind of locked up. Microsoft kind of fights for it every now and then, but I think the new lane for Microsoft should be Sims. Really awesome sim experiences. They have Skyline. Is it City Skylines, Skylines, or whatever that other
Yes.
competitor
City
to?
Skyline.
Yeah, I mean that should be where you go if you're like, you know what, I am a mid 20, 30-year old, maybe even your 40s, and I'm
I was
looking to
gonna
play
say
something.
now, put me in the pile. Put me in the
Hey,
pile.
we're all in there. I'm looking for a slower experience. I like playing with the shooters and stuff with my friends on uh, PlayStation, but when I need to go and just kind of unwind and relax and do something a little more passive, this is where, or maybe just something more detailed. This is the system I go to. So that's my last thoughts on that. We're going to be
Okay.
talking about, we're still sticking with gaming, and maybe Lenovo will help Microsoft in this aspect. Here's our next headline.
Well, I
Lenovo
want
building out its
to.
Legion Go ecosystem.
I think this is cool. Lenovo has came out with a Legion Go ecosystem with new accessories for your Legion Go. We have the USB-C dock. We have the charging connector. We have a carrying case, which is much needed. We have joystick and joystick clips and a Bluetooth keyboard. And I'm going to throw a couple more things in there that are not directly Legion Go related, but part of the Legion gaming line. We have a couple of inexpensive high refresh rate monitors, a 31 inch and a 27-inch coming the end of the year. These are going to be available in October and December. The smaller version is $269.99, and the 31 incher they say will be roughly $319.99. Now I want to kind of jump in on this a little bit. Lenovo, you surprised me here, but you surprised me here in a very good way. I have seen rumors of a new Legion Go coming. I've seen rumors that we're getting a smaller version, a lighter, kind of a mini Legion Go, if you will. But Asus has came out with the Ally X, their new quote handheld with better battery life. That's kind of the big selling point there. It's basically the same screen as the original Ally. It's the same CPU as the original Ally. Lenovo decided to come out with an accessory line for their existing Legion Go product. I'm a supporter of this, and I'm going to tell you why. To me, if they're coming out with the accessory line, that means this unit is or has sold very well for them to invest more money in the platform. And with all of these new AMD chips, we've seen the new AMD 370, I believe it is, that is kind of the efficient CPU that we've kind of seen in some lightweight laptops, and we've seen it do very well at 1080p gaming with the integrated GPU. And I think Lenovo might be doing something here and doing the right thing, in my opinion, of waiting to see what the next under the hood move is instead of putting out a battery refresh and saying, okay, here's the Legion Go 2 with a battery refresh because we don't have a better chip from AMD or Intel to put in there yet. And upping the RAM, yes, the Ally X did up the RAM from 16 gig to 24 gig. That does help when you're dealing with integrated graphics, but I don't know that those two items, battery and a little more RAM, is worth a complete refresh. So I'm happy to see what Lenovo did here. I've not played a Legion Go yet. It is still on my buy list, and I will buy it over the Asus Ally. I'll say that. I like the bigger screen. I like the higher resolution. I like the larger controllers. That's me. I also like that there's a USB 4 port at the bottom for possible GPU and some of these accessories we're talking about. So I'm a fan of what Lenovo has done here. Give me accessories instead of giving me the Lenovo Legion Go 1A, 1B. Wait till you can give me a full refresh. Way to go here.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. And for the same, on the same token, I'm a little bit cautious because I've played with the Legion Go. It's a bit heavy and bulkier than most of the competition out there. With this accessory lineup coming out, that means Lenovo's probably going to stick with that design if they even do a refresh this year around. Uh, with that being said, Microsoft is really on the chopping block, less than Asus, Lenovo, and everybody else to get out a handheld. The software experience is, I believe, more crippling than fan noise or the weight of these devices. I think people who get these things kind of understand, like, hey, I'm going to be playing this game portably or on the move, on the go for maybe 1 to 2 hours. They've kind of established that. It's not a Nintendo Switch. The games haven't been optimized to that level yet. But beyond that, I think it's just getting into the games, navigating menus, navigating settings, things like that. That's on Microsoft to fix with their version, and they're working on it. They just came out with the refresh for, I believe, the Xbox gaming app that shows up now. You can do different modes.
Yeah,
One
it's got
to
the compact mode that is a
There
lot
we go.
more handheld friendly.
Exactly. They just updated the compact mode. So I think, to your point, maybe instead of handing out another round of devices and charging people, $400 to $700 for this thing, that this Christmas they can say, "Hey, here is the bundle for those of you who didn't get out on the Lenovo Legion Go last, when we first released it. Here's a bundle. You can get the device plus all these accessories for the same amount of price or whatever, and get people bought into that ecosystem so that when you do come out with the refresh next year, let's say, hey, you know what? I really enjoyed this experience. The navigation was great. Microsoft finally helped fix that." And the device itself was solid. Plus, I got a bunch of other stuff to build out the ecosystem. I got the monitor to go with it. I have the charging cases for the handhelds. I know how this stuff kind of operates and what to do with it versus just saying, I have the thing in my hand and I just got to hope that that gaming experience is, knocks the socks off because that's all I got. That's all I get from this. So, and Lenovo, they just seem to be able to just spit out everything. Like they just make everything.
Well, and I think you're absolutely right with the experience because I did have a chance. It wasn't mine, so I didn't get a long term go with it. But the Logitech G Cloud, I'm bringing that up for a reason. It is a lower cost, not as fancy handheld for just cloud gaming. Xbox Cloud, Game Pass, GeForce Now. Now, why do I bring that up versus the Legion Go? Because it's right on what you said. We're still doing the Windows experience on the Legion Go on a small screen on a handheld, and it's not as seamless as you said as it should be. But the G Cloud is very seamless. It runs the Android backend, and you basically just touch or click what you want, and you're in your game right after you turn your device on. There's no thinking about it, no arguing with Windows. It just seems to work. And I know there's a lot of folks out there saying, Microsoft really needs to get on the ball here with an optimized something for these handhelds to keep going forward. And I think that's the reason maybe that Microsoft hasn't come out with their own handheld. I think they know it. Hey, we've got to come up with a Windows for handhelds or something to make this work. And I think that's maybe why we haven't seen the Xbox gaming handheld, because the PC experience side would be a little lacking, I think.
Yeah, no, it's just the same reason why the Steam Deck does continues to do well. People just
Yes.
prefer that interaction. We're going to move on to our last few topics, more business related, less about gaming. So, for those of you who want an off ramp, there's your off ramp. For those of you who want an on ramp, welcome. We're talking business. We're talking Microsoft paying its AI developers a bit more than they pay the Azure cloud people. And the reason why I specifically called it the Azure cloud people, not Windows or the Edge team or Office 365 specific, is because we know for like the last, I don't know, 22 quarters or so that the Azure team just rakes in the money. That has been Microsoft's pivot from Windows for quite some time now. And it's been a very successful pivot. Now Microsoft's making a third pivot, so to speak, and that happens to be in the direction of AI. But as we've been telling you guys, since the big hype of it about 2 years ago, we're starting to see investors and people kind of wear thin their patience on when AI will actually prove itself, and not proving itself in a marketing aspect where, hey, we can show you all the cool things that you could do if you know how to prompt these things, but actually saying like, hey, uh, where, how do we make the money? How do we do, how, when does this investment come back to me? Because I'm spending billions, and it looks like some of the billions that they're spending are going to developers. According to a spreadsheet obtained by Business Insider earlier this week, a Microsoft engineer was listed on that spreadsheet as making a salary of $377,611 a year. I wish I could make that. I wish I could make half that. Jeez. Um, but the breakdown of his salary is 192,000 is the base pay, $192,697, and he gets a plus additional 184,944 in stock and cash bonuses. So, at the end of this year, that's what he'll get back. And again, we know that the stock market fluctuates, so he's not guaranteed, or they are not guaranteed to make that amount, but they'll be roughly in the ballpark of 100 and, I don't know, 70, 120,000 plus, in addition to the 192 that they're making as a base salary. Um, Now, again, ironically, Microsoft Azure teams employees, they make about a base salary of roughly 77,000. Uh, I'm sorry, they make a base pay of 174,000, 196,000, 196 a year. So they're around the same base pay. It's just that the incentive structure for them is much lower. Theirs, I think, are capped at 77,000 roughly. So that's about their potential earnings versus the guy who's in AI is roughly 252,000. So the difference between 377,000 a year and 252,000. What are your thoughts on Microsoft paying the AI people who, for all intents and purposes, haven't proven themselves just yet that much more versus the people who are their workhorses?
I have mixed feelings on that, big time. I get that AI is where the money is, but kind of like our next story, look how much money we're spending on AI. And I'm not saying that these AI folks aren't working hard, but I'm kind of like you. I feel like they've got to prove themselves. Just because you have AI in the title doesn't mean that you automatically get more money. And if I'm somebody on the Azure team that is doing the development and I'm seeing that level of gap in my salary versus some new guy in here with the title of AI, I'm upset about that. I'm looking at Microsoft going, we haven't even proven that AI is going to make it yet. I mean, I hate to say it. And I was that guy in the beginning. I asked the question, was AI going to make it? Did people want it? Yes, I have become a daily, dozens of times a day AI user, but we still don't know, is AI going to make it in the current form?
Yeah,
And we're getting ready to hit on that a little bit more. And I think Microsoft has jumped the gun here. Microsoft, I love what you're doing, but I don't know that these AI employees need the extra money because I have a question. AI has been out there for a limited amount of time. What skill set is available as we're all learning that these AI employees have been able to learn to justify the bigger salary? It's kind of like somebody that's got a bachelor's degree in computer science versus a master's degree in computer science. I expect the person with the master's degree to get paid a little more than me. So, what justification do we have to say yes? The person in AI certainly deserves more money than me. I'm not sure we're there.
yeah, no, I'm in total agreement. My last note on this is that two things. I want to be fair that again, this is a spreadsheet that was obtained. We don't know how this actually pays out. This may just be HR's, broad naked numbers before they, do other kinds of tax incentive based ceilings for these kind of people. Maybe they don't get all of this money. Maybe this is a signing bonus stuff that isn't been calculated into the spreadsheet. I don't know. We just know that basic raw numbers per individuals in different divisions show that there is a significant ceiling for the Azure team as in compared to Microsoft's AI people. Now, again, the AI people, this division was just formed roughly earlier this year, and it brought in people from, I believe, DeepMind and Inflection. And I don't even know if it's necessarily Microsoft or if this is just a policy that people from DeepMind, who are now running this Microsoft AI division, have told the company that they need in order to get people in. Maybe once they have enough people in, they'll start to clamp this down and start to levy uh, more restrictions on on how much earning potential these people have. But as of right now, everyone, the key word, the buzzword is AI, and they want to staff up as much as possible. And the way you do that is by offering deep, deep, deep incentives. And this is one of the ways to people word of mouth. Hey, Microsoft's paying almost $400,000 for AI developers. That's how you get them in the door. And again, maybe this was a practice done at DeepMind or Inflection is to overpay. And now that they have the purse strings from Microsoft, they're doing it in order to staff up. And maybe these developers are, quantum AI engineers that are building the next Skynet. And there are only a handful of these people that are that talented, while the rest of them make roughly what the Azure team makes. But to your point, everything I just said was unproven, literally, and the function of AI is still unproven. So hopefully Microsoft gets a hold of this before they spiral out of control and end up leading into our next story, which is Microsoft, Apple, and NVIDIA will for all intents and purposes bail out OpenAI from potential bankruptcy. We talked about this OpenAI's potential for bankruptcy about a month and a half ago, if you're
Yeah,
keeping
roughly.
aware. This is back when we were under 20 years of 20 podcasts of age, I believe. But
We were still young bucks back then.
yeah, now we're old and we're cynical and we're looking at the numbers. But according to a report by CNBC, OpenAI is in talks to raise funding, which could push its market valuation over $100 billion. The company's valuation has grown significantly, obviously for reasons over the past year, from about 29 billion to in 2023 to 80 billion earlier this year. They're looking to push past that with this next round of funding. The company has been a success thanks large in part to ChatGPT and its broad availability and adoption. We also have to keep in mind that part of this company is also nonprofit, but it seems like all we talk about these days is the profit side of things. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Dolly 3 and Sora, they have models that are very competent with all of that. So they have kind of cornered the market, at least as far as the brand recognition is concerned, which is again leading to their valuation. But we also did a report about how they're just burning through cash as they look to build the next versions of their ChatGPT models or whatnot. as they rent servers from Microsoft, as they look to make partnerships with Apple that don't net them any actual profits. They are just spending money. They're spending money on employees. They're spending money on resources. They are just burning through cash nonstop, as evident by this real necessity for more funding. Now, the interesting part of this whole story is that Microsoft, who initially or who has backed them to the tune of almost close to 12 to 13 billion dollars of investment, is looking to do it once again. They will be participating in a round of funding, according to the report from Wall Street Journal, but it's unclear how much they will be investing this time around. But Apple's also been linked to investing in this as well. NVIDIA is another one, and again, this isn't because everyone wants to bail out poor little OpenAI. These are very self-interested bailouts, and let me see if what are your thoughts on that? Why do you think companies who are about to get into AI, who maybe want to own the stack themselves, would likely bail out this company?
Right now, they're dependent upon it. Right now, most of our AI infrastructure is based upon OpenAI and ChatGPT, etc. That OpenAI and ChatGPT is really what started this. Now, roughly 2 years ago, I remember going to the ChatGPT website and going, "Okay, what the heck is this?" Because we didn't know yet, and I just started tinkering and go, "Okay, it looks interesting, but I'm not sure." Well, now Microsoft is based on OpenAI ChatGPT, Apple OpenAI ChatGPT. All of these smaller companies that have got the smaller language models, your customer support bots, etc. OpenAI ChatGPT, NVIDIA. Look at the money they're making selling the GPUs that people are running ChatGPT on. So until we have multiple competing large language models out there, everybody wants a piece of this pie to make sure OpenAI doesn't go anywhere because, what am I sitting here talking to you folks on? Snapdragon laptop. Would the Snapdragon laptop exist if AI didn't make a run for it here? Would we have a Copilot button on the right side of my keyboard here if OpenAI didn't make a run for it? No, I think we would still be looking at Intel CPUs, AMD CPUs, and I'm not even sure Windows on ARM would exist yet at this point. So there's a lot baked into AI right now, and if OpenAI goes away, all this goes down the drain with it.
I'm sure Google's over there licking their chops, waiting for it to fall through with Gemini, saying, "Hey, I can
Yes.
rescue you guys." I know that they're still in talks with Apple, so maybe we'll see some more advancements or announcements from Apple during their iPhone event related to bringing Gemini on board as well, because they said they're going to have competing models, support for competing models in addition to OpenAI, so they're not exclusive. Um, yeah, it is. You're right. They're buying themselves time. A lot of these companies, especially Microsoft, are building small language models to be more hyper specific, better trained, and more profitable when it comes to deployment. Deploying a generally broad OpenAI for markets that only need specific things is costly. Again, you're using servers and data centers and stuff like that to support broader LLMs when all you need is a small language model that you then can update whenever necessity negates it. And you get feedback from customers. If you have a small language model that does, that only tracks shipping containers because people need to know when their package and stuff are coming through. You don't need all of the advancements and vast resources that Copilot pulls from ChatGPT. You need something that's specifically trained on that knowledge set, that data set. And you can then charge for that specifically and update it whenever you need to and be in control of it and dedicate the resources you need to it, allocate it, and save yourself a lot more money. So I think as Microsoft, as IBM, as Salesforce, as all these other companies start to master those lanes over the next 2 to 3 years, we'll start to see the round of funding at that point perhaps dry up for OpenAI. I'm not saying it's going to go away completely, but I think people will begin to pull back unless they deliver something that is, again, as revolutionary as ChatGPT was to the market 2 years ago. And again, things are just moving faster and faster these days. I'll let you have the last word, and then we'll wrap up this pod.
Well, I'm going to throw this. You're going to enjoy this comment given our previous discussions over the past year. This guy could not imagine a daily world without OpenAI. There.
Whoa, sold on. Look at this guy. You work for OpenAI?
Well,
Is that where this money's going? Your paycheck?
in the beginning, I was that guy. If you guys watch our early podcast and some of our podcasts for the previous outlet that we worked for, I was not sure about AI. I really was out, was not having it. I just thought it was a gimmick. And I'm going to have to say, really, over the last 3 months, 4 months, I could not imagine a day of getting up and not using it in some way. So, in the beginning, when we talked about this, you and I, the original, what was it, $10 billion investment, we questioned really hard, why did Microsoft make that $10 billion investment? Why did they spend that money? Well, from a user perspective, that is a tech journalist, thank you for spending that money, Microsoft. And to NVIDIA and Apple and all the other people jumping on board, thank you for jumping on board. But we've got to see this continue to move forward to make, let's hope a third round of funding is not needed, is what I'm saying. I don't know that AI survives needing a third round of funding like this. So let's hope by the time we burn through this money, you know, the landscape is improved. There's better options, smaller models, less resources needed, etc., to make this all work.
You hear that? NVIDIA, Microsoft, Apple, OpenAI. Send your checks to David. Where's your email, huh? Where can they send these
Well, let's see. That's
lawful
David
marketing
at
pages? There we
MicrosoftUnboxed.com.
go. David at promotionspayme.com. Yeah, send it all his way. The guy has earned a paycheck. With that being said, where can they actually get in contact with you? Not the companies, but our listeners or anybody interested in tech.
David PAJ1978. Find me over on X, Twitter, and Threads as well. Be glad to hang out with you guys. I enjoy doing this every week with my buddy here. I enjoy seeing the comments you guys throw at me, whether they're good, bad, or ugly. I enjoy them all. So come hang out.
I believe, hold on, I'm getting a vision. Sellout is going to be in a lot of these comments after this week. Um, you can find me at Mindhead1 back on Twitter. I am still over there, unfortunately. But if you want to have a nicer, more curated time, you can find me at Cream Anderson on Instagram or Threads as well, where I talk about tech, talk about comics, talk about movies and stuff as well. With that being said, we want to thank you guys for joining us for another week of podcast
Yes.
news. Again, we are always looking to get better and more entertaining. So please leave those comments and suggestions in the comment and suggestions area or whatever you're listening to this on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or whatever. We will try and incorporate that feedback. Until then, you guys have a safe and happy weekend. We'll see you guys again following week, not next week, but the following week.
Sounds good. Have a good weekend, everybody. Enjoy your holiday.